Here we go again, guys. Like you expect every Friday, here's my Read-Aloud Encounter Underpants book 11. It's a Counter Underpants video. Now, where's the stupid book? Wait, So, Captain Underpants and the Tyrannical Retaliation of the Tropotoid 2000, the 11th epic novel by Dave Pilkey. This is the penultimate installment of my Captain Underpants series. I know some of you might be disappointed, but my Captain Underpants series is not going to... Read-Aloud series is not going to last forever. There's only 12 books. But anyways, hi everybody, we're back, and as usual, we're in big trouble again. This comic will help you get up to speed on our story so far. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about Captain Underpants. Once there were two super awesome kids named George and Hal. We rocked the house, Sully, me too. But they had to be Mr. Crow and Mr. Crow. Bloody Betty, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Crow tried to blackmail George and Hal. I got you now! So George and Hal hypnotized him. I don't think so. They made him think it was Captain Underpants. It was funny at first, but then he took things a little too far. George, and got back! He got into all sorts of trouble. Then one day he drank some alien superpower juice and he got real superpowers, which got him into even more trouble. Now you see, they're showing all the villains that he fought when he didn't have superpowers, and then all the ones he fought when he did have superpowers. They show all the villains that he fought so far in the series. Well, except for Zork's, Clax, Jennifer, and their evil selves in an alternate universe or stuff like that. But anyway, now whenever Mr. Crop hears somebody snap their fingers, snap, he turns into Captain Underpants. And whenever anybody pours water on Captain Underpants' head, he turns back into Beetle, Mr. Crop, blah, blah, blah. One time talking to his attack, blah, 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 blah. Their leader was the Tropotoid 2000. George Hill used a weird machine to make a good robot called the Robo Plunger. The Robo Plunger beat out the Tropotoid 2000 and flew up to Uranus. Again with that joke. There they have stayed for many months. This other time, Wedgie Woman made two robots. One of them kicked a kickball into outer space. Could these two events be connected? Oh my god. Okay, before we move on, it seems like in this new comic they just abandoned explaining the events of book 6 onwards, because at this point you should have just read the books by now. Like seriously, Dave Pilkey would have been so easy to just paste the number on the spice that the people knew which book they were buying. Well, I don't know. I guess a true Captain Underpants fan would have to know which book they're buying. Anyway, our heroes are about to find out, because at this very moment they're traveling backwards in time to discover the terrible truth. Oh no! Here we go again! Chapter 1, George and Hal. Just George and Hal. Just George can't have time to thought. Harold doesn't want rotation to back haircut. Remember that now. Every time I read that part of my sanity is always lost. Now, if you're confused by what's going on here, don't worry. They're confused too. You see, George, Hal, and Captain Underpants had undergone an epic adventure that started out in the dinosaur age and ended at their school 30 years in the future. Now, thanks to Melvin Sneely, the telltale genius, his glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robot squid suit, they're all hurtling backward in time, back to a long, long, long time ago, to that dull, old-fashioned age known as the present. Oh, I almost forgot. Charlie and with them were 3 purple and orange speckled eggs, led by their pet pterodactyl crackers, who, along with their other pet Sula's bionic hamster, had just ate the planet and created all life as we know it simultaneously. See, that wasn't confusing at all, was it? Melon's glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robot squid whizzed through time in a dazzling array of electrified candy as 30 years sped by in reverse. Then everything stopped suddenly. George and Hal looked around. Hey, said Hal, we're still here at school. Correct, said Melvin. Only it's now 30 years and 1 day earlier. Hey, look, said George, pointing at the school. That's Tipping his roller pants. Not again, Harold moaned. Relax, said Melvin as a flash of green light shot out of the library window. You're looking at something that happened yesterday, remember? Oh yeah, said Harold. We were up in there in the library. We just disappeared into the purple potty. Right, said George. And Tibby is just about to come after us. He should be leaving any second now. Suddenly, a crackling blue light shot out of the robot pants, and before you could say convoluted plot line, it disappeared into the new time haze. Okay, said Melvin, here you are. Home again, jiggity jig. Take your precious eggs and go about your business. Wait a second, said George. Aren't the cops still after us? Yeah, said Harold. Don't they still think we stole that money from the bank? Not anymore, said Melvin, proudly patting himself on the back with one of his mechanical tentacles. Luckily, I have this glow-in-the-dark time-traveling robot squid suit in my garage. I used to go back in time and hack into the bank's computer. What for? Asked Harold. No big deal, said Melvin. I alter their surveillance images a little bit. Just don't grow a mustache or a beard anytime soon, and you guys will be fine. Wow, said Harold. Melvin's nearly rescued us. I can't believe it. Yeah, I don't get it, Melvin said George suspiciously. You've always hated us. How come you're being so nice to us all of a sudden? Oh, I have my reasons, said Melvin. I have my reasons. And Melvin did indeed have reasons. 1 whole year's worth of reasons. But before I say that's right to tell you this story. Chapter 2. Don't you hate it when a kickball hits Uranus? Why'd you have to word it like that? Anyway, somewhere in the deepest, darkest reaches of our solar system, a red rubber kickball was zooming through space. None of Earth's top scientists could explain where it had come from or why it was racing towards Uranus, but it had been on its present course for the past 5.5 books, and nothing could stop it. The kickball sped closer and closer to a small cluster of porcelain monstrosities that lay together in a heap on the surface of the icy, ridiculously named planet. Behind them, guarding them all with a keen, observant eye, was a robotics sentinel known as the Incredible Robo Plunger. Faster and faster, the kickball whizzed toward them, and finally, kablink! The force of the red rubber ball knocked the head right off of the Incredible Robo Plunger. The decapitated defender jutted forward slightly, as photoatomic transmogulating ectofentralatonsis optimistic juice dribbled out from its mangled neck hole and oozed slightly downward into the gaping mouth of Turbo 2000. Alright, I'm sorry, I have a little complaint. Why is the background like this if Uranus is an uninhabitable ice giant that doesn't have any solid surface on it, aside from its core? They're not at the core. They're on the surface, which is solid in this world. That does not make any sense whatsoever. Moving on. This wasn't fortunate because, as any robotics engineer will tell you, it's very important to keep photoatomic transmogulating and get defensive robotics optimistic juice as far away from evil robots as possible. You certainly don't want to get even a drop of it in their mouths, for it will only make them come to life and give them an unquenchable appetite for destruction. Which, sadly, is exactly what happened that bleak night on the terribly gassy surface of Uranus. There is no surface of Uranus. What the hell is wrong with this? What's wrong with the physics of this book series? Anyway, the Turbo 2000's bulbous, bloodshot eyes smacked open and wobbled around wildly. His massive left arm creaked down and rubbed the painful, throbbing side of his porcelain lid. "Where the heck am I?" he said, looking around his fallen allies. Clumsily, he squeaked to his feet, dusted himself off, and beheld the headless mess that once was the Incredible Robo Plunger. Then it all came back to him. The battle, the defeat, the humiliation. It wasn't long before the Turbo 2000 had pieced together every single event that had brought him and his army of Talkatoas to this frozen, frustrating fate. "I must retaliate," he said, clenching his razor-sharp porcelain teeth together tightly. "I must avenge my fallen allies." Luckily for him, he was a robot, which meant he knew a thing or two about mechanical engineering. It didn't take long for him to disassemble the Robo Plunger, rearrange the pieces, and create a flying rocket scooter from the recycled parts of his arch-enemy. The only thing left to do was to travel the long journey from Uranus to Earth. It was a voyage that would take him nearly 3 whole pages to complete, and when he arrived, he would wage a war against the good people of Earth. A war that would threaten the very foundation of our planet. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 3, Melvin's Moment of Mirth. Remember back in Chapter 1 where he found out that Melvin had a whole year's worth of reasons why he needed to bring George Hell and Captain Underpants back to the present? Well, in case you're wondering what happened during that year, here's what happened during that year. Immediately after our heroes disappeared on their prehistoric journey, the cops started looking for George Hell and Mr. Krupp. Wanted posters appeared in post offices across America, but since George Hell and Mr. Krupp had traveled back in time to the Cretaceous period, they were nowhere to be found. Everyone assumed that George Hell and Mr. Krupp had robbed a bank and were hiding out in Canada and Mexico somewhere, and it wasn't too long before the cops gave up and stopped looking for them. This was sad news for most of the residents of Pico, Ohio, but not for Melvin Sneedley. Melvin was finally happy for the first time in years. No George and no Harold meant no pranks, no comics, and best of all, no interruptions. Melvin could finally go about conducting his scientific experiments, creating wild new inventions, and indulging his beautiful mind in peace. But all that happiness only lasted for about 2 weeks, because, as we mentioned earlier, you know who showed up. Chapter 4, He Who Must Not Be Flushed. The Turbo 2000 entered Earth's atmosphere in a blazing fireball from the sky. His rocket scooter roared over the rooftops of the small Ohio town as the porcelain predator bellowed out an eardrum-crushing taunt. "Yes, Johnny!" And then came the destruction. Buildings collapsed. City buses were thrown through skyscraper windows. Fires raged out of control. The chaos and devastation crippled the town, sent residents running for their lives, and annoyed the heck out of one little boy. Melvin Sneedley had been trying to get some work done in his bedroom laboratory when the attack began. All he needed was 1 or 2 more hours of uninterrupted silence to complete his experiment, but the terrible ruckus outside was really getting on his nerves. Melvin marched over to his bedroom window, poked his head up, and shouted, "Oi! I'm trying to rock you, idiot! Be quiet!" As you can probably imagine, the Turbo 2000 didn't take too kindly to being dressed down in such a manner. He swiveled his massive bull around quickly and glared at Melvin with his raging, hard-boiled eyeballs. "Uh-oh," Melvin gulped. Suddenly, the Turbo Toys 2000 leaped at Melvin. The tiny tattletale screamed as the malevolent miscreant chased him down the street, across the city, and into the empty, darkened hallways of Drumheart's elementary school. Melvin ran upstairs and hid under Mr. Crump's desk while the Turbo Toys 2000 searched through the classrooms for him. Melvin was in deep trouble. Finally, he actually needed Counterpants' help, but the wasteman where it was nowhere to be found. "Rats!" said Melvin. "You're falling out, ouch!" Melvin's knee was pressing down to something sharp. Carefully, Melvin reached down and pulled the pointy little object out of his knee. It was a toenail. Not just any toenail either. It was one of Mr. Crump's thick, greasy, yellow toenails they had clipped off the day before he had been whisked away on his journey back through time. "Ew, what a slob!" said Melvin as he flicked the toenail away. Then Melvin thought of something. He knew that Mr. Crump was also Captain Underpants. That meant that Mr. Crump's DNA must have some kind of superpowered element in its makeup. If Melvin could find a way to extract the superpowered element from Mr. Crump's DNA, Melvin could, theoretically, transfer those superpowers himself. "Where's that toenail?" cried Melvin. Chapter 5, Big Melvin Returns. The Turbo Toys 2000 noisily smashed his way from classroom to classroom, getting closer to Mr. Crump's office with each stumbling footstep. Melvin desperately searched the mangy orange carpet for Mr. Crump's sticky toenail, digging his fingers deep into the matted shag as the sounds of carnage got louder and louder. "Where's that toenail?" Melvin screamed. Finally, Mr. Crump's office door burst open. "Oh!" shouted the Turbo Toys 2000. "I'm going to know you annoying little brat!" He reached down, grabbed Melvin by the foot, and pulled him toward his charming razor-sharp teeth. Screamed Melvin. Once again, Mr. Crump's sticky toenail had washed away into Melvin's pasty, freckled skin. By this time, Melvin couldn't have been happier about it. Quickly, he reached back, untied his shoe, and slipped his foot out. Then Melvin jumped out of Mr. Crump's window and slid down the flagpole, which the Turbo Toys 2000 in hot pursuit. Fortunately, Melvin's little scientist wristwatch had a built-in DNA extractor. Melvin inserted the filthy toenail into his watch and programmed a complete instruction procedure while the Turbo Toys 2000 chased him back through town. As Melvin ran screaming, his watch quickly pulverized and sonicated the toenail cells, removed the membrane lipids, proteins, and RNA, and purified and isolated a single strand of Mr. Crump's DNA. When Melvin reached his bedroom laboratory, he quickly fed the results into his mega computer, which identified the metallo-organic superpowered substance and began replicating it in a saline gel solution. The gel percolated slowly as it oozed in a glass beaker. "Hurry up, you dumb semi-conservative genome replication device!" shouted Melvin convolutedly as the Turbo Toys 2000 crashed through his bedroom wall. "Gotcha!" roared the loathsome lavatory. He scooped Melvin to his gigantic fist as his wet, leathery tongue slid back and forth against his pointed porcelain premolars. With one final desperate thrust, Melvin grabbed the beaker and chucked down its green glowing contents. The Turbo Toys 2000 popped Melvin to his mouth like a cocktail weenie and started to chew. His ferocious fangs chomped feverishly, but Melvin was tough and hard and surprisingly gristly. The Turbo Toys 2000 struggled to swallow, attacks that he found nearly impossible. With his gigantic metal fingers, he reached into his bowl and pulled out a mucus-covered little boy who didn't have a scratch on him. The Turbo Toys 2000 gawked at Melvin in dumbfounded astonishment. "You are so immature," said Melvin. Chapter 6, Sanitized for Your Protection. Unfortunately, the epic fight that followed was way too violent and disturbing to appear in a children's book. The images and descriptions would just be too terrifying. You have nightmares for weeks, trust me. So I invited a guest illustrator, Timmy Swanson, age 4, to draw the action in a style that won't depict too much graphic detail. I've also asked Nana Gertrude, age 71, to describe the scene in her own gentle vocabulary. Take it away, Timmy and Nana.
"Thank you, dear. Now let's see what's happening here. What? Oh my, that's horrible. It looks like a little boy's... Oh dear, now what's he doing? Oh dear me, this surely is not appropriate at all. And now there's a robot shaped like a... Well, I'd rather not say. He's just doing such dreadful things, though. And, oh my, say what kind of book is this? Oh, for heaven's sake, this is ridiculous. I've never been so offended all my... Oh, I see just about enough. Oh dear. Timmy, stop drawing this instant. No, Timmy, no.
Chapter 7, The Grandfather Chapter Part 1, Flipperama, featuring Nana and Timmy. I've had enough of this society. Shame on you. Shame you all. It's okay, there's just a few more food pages and it'll be over. Oh dear. Oh my. More progress. Oh, for goodness sake. Chapter 8, Everybody Loves Melvin. When it was all over, the Turbo Toys 2000 was dead and Melvin Snealing was a hero. The mayor had a big parade in honor of Melvin. Weird Al Yankovic wrote a song about him. Even the vice president sent a letter of congratulations. Melvin Snealing was known throughout the world as the little superpowered tattletale who saved the world. Finally, said Melvin, I'm getting the respect I deserve. Chapter 9, With great power comes a great big pain in the hiney. Melvin enjoyed being a superhero, at first. It was fun stopping runaway trains, rescuing lost children, and saving people from burning buildings. Whenever anybody needed help, all they had to do was lift their heads to the sky and cry out, "Yo, Big Melvin!" And Big Melvin would drop whatever he was doing and zip to the scene and save the day. It was all good at first, until it started to get bad. You see, after a while, people started to abuse the system. They started crying out, "Yo, Big Melvin!" all the time, and it got old pretty quickly. Melvin would drop everything, throw on his cape, fly out the window, zip through the city, and arrive at the scene, only to find out it wasn't an emergency at all. Usually, it was just someone who had misplaced her cell phone, or a kid who needed help with the video game cheat code, or some guy accidentally dropped his ball in the toilet. It was a complete waste of Melvin's time, and the interruptions were beginning to drive him crazy. Oh look, he has a Darth Vader poster on his door. At least I think that's Darth Vader. Anyway, but the final straw came one evening as Melvin was doing a synchrotron radiation experiment with his homemade oscillating field particle accelerator. 11 months of research were finally about to pay off. The klystrons and electromagnets began to accelerate the hadrons faster and faster through Melvin's homemade copper cyclone tubing. Soon, Melvin would be the first person on Earth to definitely prove the Higgs boson's existence and solve the mystery of everything. But then, with his supersonic eardrums, Melvin heard a cry from help across the city. Quickly, Melvin shut down his experiment, which caused the particle accelerator to overheat. The resulting explosion blew a hole in his bedroom floor 40 feet deep. But Melvin didn't care. Somewhere in the city, a citizen needed his help, so he grabbed his smoldering cane from the pile of ashes that used to be his bedroom closet and flew to the scene of the emergency. When he arrived, he found a middle-aged woman screaming frantically out her apartment window. "Yo, Big Melvin, help, help, it's an emergency, what's wrong?" Melvin asked her swiftly. "Do these pants make you look fat?" asked the lady. And as you can see, Melvin just didn't like that question. Hang her from a pole. He had enough. Chapter 10, it's a mad Melvin. Melvin was angry, very, very angry. Since he'd become a superhero, he had no time to do his experiments. He had no time off, no sleep, no privacy, no time for anything. At that moment, Melvin made his decision. He decided for his own sanity to quit the superhero business once and for all. But getting out was going to be a lot harder than it was getting in. Melvin needed to find a superhero to replace him. So he made up his mind to locate Captain Underpants, bring him back to Pequa, and let him deal with all the hassles of superhero-dom. Finding Captain Underpants, it turns out, wasn't as hard as Melvin had expected. Melvin knew that George and Hale were usually with Captain Underpants, and Sulu the Bionic Hamster was usually with George and Hale. So, Melvin concluded, if I find Sulu, I should find Captain Underpants. Since Melvin had installed a GPS on Sulu's robotic endoskeleton, all Melvin had to do was run a simple scan on his computer for the GPS device. That's what he was trying to tell George and Hale in the last book, but they cut him off, ever so rudely. Anyway, at first the scan found nothing. So Melvin broadened his search to include all locations and all times. Finally, Melvin's search paid off. He found Sulu's last satellite reported location down by the schoolyard 29 years in the future. That wasn't too hard, Melvin sneered, but bringing them all back to the present would be a little more complicated. Chapter 11, Dark Foreshadows. Melvin went to his garage and climbed into his glow-in-the-dark time-traveling Robo-Squid suit. Quickly, the suit powered up and started slinking and slithering through the schoolyard as Melvin began the long journey to bring George, Hale, and Captain Underpants back home where they belonged. After solving some surveillance photo issues at the bank, Melvin zapped himself to the future, fetched everyone, and brought them all back 1 year earlier to the exact time and place where they had departed on their journey in our last book. George, Helen, and Captain Underpants had been through a lot in the past few days, but now it was as if they had never left at all. Everything was just as it had been. The Turbocharged would arrive on Earth for another 2 weeks, so Melvin's future as a superhero would never become a reality, and nobody was happier about that than Melvin himself. "I don't have to be a superhero anymore," cried Melvin happily. "I can finally follow my destiny, peace and quiet at last." "But you still haven't told us why you brought us back," said George. "Yeah," said Harold, "what gives?" "Oh, you'll find out," said Melvin with a foreboding chuckle. "In 2 weeks, you'll find out." Melvin unleashed a horrible, villainous laugh as his glow-in-the-dark Robo-Squid suit began to shake and buzz. Soon he and his tentacle time machine disappeared into a ball of electric light. And we never find out where exactly did he go. But anyway, Chapter 12, Heading Home. George and Hale had no choice but to take Mr. Krupp home. They brought him to his front door, got the key out from behind the bushes, and let him inside. "Go over to the kitchen sink and splash some water on your face," said George. "Aye, aye, sir," said Captain Underpants. He did as he was told in no time at all. He's back to his grumpy old self. "I wonder what's going to happen in 2 weeks," said Hale as he and George walked home. "I'm sure it's no big deal," said George. "If Melvin can handle it, we can handle it." Soon George and Hale were back up at their tree house. Carefully, they placed crackers and eggs on some soft pillows under a few desk lamps. "There," said George. "That should keep them warm and cozy." George and Hale were dead tired. They hadn't slept in over 30 hours, and they'd been ready for their lives most of that time. I need a serious nap, said Harold as he settled his being my chair. Me too, said George as he collapsed into his own being my chair. Saving the world is exhausting. I'm still a little worried about that whole 2 weeks thing, said Harold. That sounds really bad. Relax, George. There's nothing we can do about it now anyway. Let's try to stay out of trouble for the next 2 weeks, said Harold. If the world is going to end, I don't want to be stuck in detention the whole time. Don't worry so much, said George. Besides, how much trouble could we get in 2 weeks anyway?